A dagger in the backs of the Palestinian people and all Muslims. This is Bill Whittle Now. I'm Scott Ott. And Bill, that's the way Iran and Turkey have greeted the announcement that the United Arab Emirates has established full diplomatic relations with Israel. This is, of course, a project that was brokered by the Trump administration. And President Trump has received a lot of criticism over the last couple of years with how he's conducting this diplomacy outside of the normal channels, in particular using his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. What did you think when you first heard the news that the UAE and Israel were establishing full diplomatic relations?
Well, needless to say, I was pleased to hear it. I saw a tweet this morning by the Twitter handle is, I think it was Sean Ono Lennon, who I think wouldn't likely, if that's really him, wouldn't likely be, exactly a conservative bastion. But basically his tweet was, peace in the Middle East, yay! Wait, it was brokered by Trump? Boo, boo, we Democrats are against peace. We like war. And I think that's basically how it plays out. I never cease to be amazed at how Democrats and progressives in general are much more concerned with how something is done than what the outcome of something is. It seems to me that all across the board, they would much rather be a part of something that was wittily executed and accompanied by the white gloves and well-spoken at cocktail parties and all the rest, but resulted in failure, than having somebody they consider to be brash and boorish actually pull off a diplomatic near miracle.
Well, Bill, you know the old saying, it really doesn't matter what gets done. What matters is who gets the credit.
Well, I don't agree with that saying.
Wait a minute. Maybe that wasn't the saying.
No, there is. I think the saying was, it's amazing what you can do if you don't care who gets the credit. And I think that was Reagan, but I'm not sure. In any event, it's an enormous deal. And again, well, it was done by his son-in-law, and it wasn't done through diplomatic channels, which is why it worked.
Well, President Trump, of course, has tweeted about this, and the word he used to describe the breakthrough was his classic huge in all caps. In addition, though, he added that don't be surprised to see future agreements, essentially more peace deals between Israel and other countries in the region. Just for the record, so far, the UAE is the third regional power to establish full diplomatic relations with Israel, the previous being back in the 1970s, Egypt, and then also Jordan. Bill, what do you think of the idea that during a Trump administration with Benjamin Netanyahu in the prime ministership in Israel, two war hawks, that we might actually see the first legitimate breakthroughs in what Netanyahu said was decades?
Well, when you really look at the actual evidence and you put it so plainly like that, it's enough to make a person at least consider whether or not the war hawks are correct when they're saying, if you want peace, prepare for war. If you want peace, do it from a position of strength. If you want peace, make sure that your adversary, who you would like to make peace with, understands that he has more to gain by being peaceful than he has by being warlike. And this is the enormous outcome of this. It doesn't surprise me that he says look for other outcomes, because this act on the part of the UAE, which required tremendous political courage on the part of those leaders, essentially, it's like a blast of dynamite that opens up a logjam. What it does, Scott, is it gives permission to other Arab states who are not rabidly anti-Israel, anti-Western, and so on, like Iran. It gives other states permission. There's so many things in nature, in our personal lives, but especially in international relations, and most especially inside diplomatic circles, inside the world of the blue banners and the white gloves and the presenting your credentials and all of this stuff. There is just so much historical evidence that so much can be accomplished, but it becomes a question of who goes first. It's all about loss of face and all of this stuff. So since the UAE has essentially shattered that logjam, they have given permission for other Arab governments to follow the same road. And I not only think it's possible, I'm actually thinking it's likely that we will start to see now a number of agreements all across the table, brokered by a guy who did it behind the scenes and who didn't have the common decency, really, or was so, Donald Trump is so crude and so crass that he didn't realize that you're supposed to get the Nobel Peace Prize first and then go and make peace, as his predecessor didn't.
You know, the way you describe it, it almost sounds like we could call this in shorthand a M.O.A.D, the mother of all deals, or to coin a phrase, a Hunker-Buster.
It's all of those things. And there's an aspect to this that I haven't heard people talking about yet. I hope it comes up because I think it's the real key to this whole thing happening, the key. When he, basically as President of the United States, officially recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, it wasn't just for show. It fundamentally reversed the entire dynamic of the Middle East. Historians are going to look back on this age that we live in, and I'm sure they'll refer to it as the age of grievances. And in the absolute pinnacle of the age of grievances, after Barack Obama was genuinely sending pallets full of stacked $100 bills to the Iranians for them to build more bombs and rockets with, to keep up this ongoing low-level war with Israel until Israel finally buckled or gave even more concessions. Up until Donald Trump saying that the United States recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, up until that moment, time was on the side of the Iranians and the Palestinians. The longer they could draw out the misery, they thought, the more likely it was that they could get more concessions from Israel and that the United States would agree to them. But when Donald Trump made that remarkable gesture, what he was saying to Israel, to Iran, to the Palestinians, and to the rest of the world, what he was saying is, as far as the United States was concerned, you know, we're the guys with the 11 carrier strike groups, Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, and they're not going anywhere. And when he made that statement, it made it clear to the entire Arab world that the United States was in this for the duration that Israel was, that its claims to Jerusalem were legitimate as far as the world superpower is concerned. But the short form, Scott, is it completely reversed the dynamic, and now it made it so that time is not on the side of the people that want continuing war. Now time is working against them. And I cannot imagine that the UAE political leadership, which again took enormous courage to make this agreement based on Iran saying things like a dagger in the back of all Muslims. I cannot imagine that this deal would have happened, that they would have had the courage to do this had the United States not already basically said, we are standing with Israel. Jerusalem is their capital. That's where the chips are. And now if you want to make a deal, at least you know what we're bargaining for.
Let me finish up with this. And this is from somebody who, of course, has been a big fan of President Trump. This is the quote to describe what this means. This move was a historic step to bridge the deep divides of the Middle East. And he called the UAE's offer to publicly recognize the state of Israel as a welcome, brave, and badly needed act of statesmanship. It is a critical recognition that Israel is a vibrant, integral part of the Middle East that is here to stay. Israel can and will be a valued strategic and economic partner to all who welcome it. Bill, that is high praise from Trump fan Joe Biden.
P.S. Please vote Democrat because we think it's good too. That's a cynical remark from a cynical age. I'm very, very glad to hear that from Joe Biden. Sincerely, legitimately, I am enormously heartened to hear that. You know, the one of the reasons that this age is so contentious is because of social media and the power of what we used to call peer pressure, but what psychologists call social proof. And when you hear something like this, and you've been on this more than I have, Scott, you realize that there is a world possible where your opponent's every move is not uniquely evil and everything that they do is designed to destroy the country, and that anybody who follows them is either an idiot or a traitor. When you hear this kind of thing coming from the Democratic presidential nominee in praise of the deal brokered by the president, it reminds you that it is possible to live in a world where civility and decency and some level of respect can survive. And it's enormously encouraging to hear things like this. No matter, and I guess it gets more encouraging the less frequent they become. But basically, to me, what that statement from Joe Biden is it's that kind of thing that I've always admired so much about sports in general, but American sports in particular. The idea that when the game is over, no matter how hard fought it is, or how many penalties or fouls, or you thought the thing was dirty, or the ref, whatever, arch rival, that when the game is over, you go out to midfield, the two coaches go to midfield and they shake hands. And sometimes there's a lot of genuine warmth there. You can just see it. You can almost very rarely hear what they say. But a lot of times in football games, you say, oh, good guy, great game. Sometimes it's just like stone cold, icy hatred, But the act of the two coaches going out to the middle and shaking hands and having the players shake hands puts puts a boundary on the game and says that this contest and this kind of primate sort of aggression and all that other great stuff that I'm such a big fan of has come to an end now. And it was a game, and we leave the game on the field. And that is the primary requirement for living in a civil society, and a democratic one for that matter too. So serious praise for Joe Biden for crediting Donald Trump and the UAE leadership with what looks like not only a historical breakthrough, but I think really is a harbinger of much, much more to come now that the UAE has given these other Arab states permission, and it's clear that the United States has put its significant footprints behind Israel on this one. So yeah, hooray for the warmongers. Blessed be they, who make war for the sake of peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're grateful for you watching this. If you're watching us on YouTube, please click that notification bell and the subscribe button to make sure you don't miss a thing. But even if you do that, you're going to miss some things. You're going to miss some backstage content and, frankly, some member-generated content at billwhittle.com that you can only enjoy and participate in if you become a member. Maybe now is the day for that. Why don't you go to billwhittle.com right now and click that big green Become a Member button. For Bill Whittle, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks for watching.